Hello everyone, welcome back once again. I'm Nicodemus Kane. Today is June the 16th of 2023. And wouldn't you know it, I had an update for the laptop. And everything is all kinds of wonky again. So hopefully this is going out clear and okay. Today we're going to read Ezekiel 41. Again, these are measurements of the new temple in Jerusalem, so I don't know how much learning and understanding we're going to get from this, but you never know. The Father might always show us something that we did not have yesterday, hopefully. But as far as anything else we've been talking about over the past month, 2 months, as far as Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Isaiah, we're probably not going to find it here today. These are measurements. These are the descriptions of the temple. Should I pull the diagram back up? Let's see if I can find it again first. Ezekiel court measurements. Let me go back in here. Let's see if I can find a different one, like a different take on it. Let's see what this one looks like. Once I find a good one, I'll pull you in here. But yeah, no, this ain't it. Let's try again. Let's get out of there. It's running slow. It's like I said, it gave me an update, and now everything is just like bleh. Oh, this is pretty nice. Oh wow. Okay. Alright, so I got one for you. Alright. Let me try to center that as best as I can. And then I will let you guys see it. Make sure that it's recording. There we go. Alright. It's a little bit of a better color picture. I'm sure that you can't read half of the stuff that's on there. It's all very tiny. They got other ones on here too, but this is huge. This is monstrous, and you miss out on all this stuff. So I don't know, maybe I should leave it like that for now. You think? Maybe? Or like that. Let's go ahead and leave it like that for now. No, there. I gotta quit messing with it. It's just a broad overview. And like I said, there is a lot of descriptive language in here that tells us exactly how this place is going to be built and what it's going to look like. So, like I said, if there's any understanding to come from this, it may be numerological, or it could be something else that I don't know about. And there are no pilcrows, so this is straight through. This is 1 through 26. So let's go ahead and start this. Ezekiel 41. Afterward he brought me to the temple, and measured the posts 6 cubits broad on the one side, and 6 cubits broad on the other side, which was the breadth of the tabernacle. And the breadth of the door was 10 cubits, and the sides of the door were 5 cubits on the one side, and 5 cubits on the other side. And he measured the length thereof 40 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits. Then went he inward, and measured the post of the door 2 cubits, and the door 6 cubits, and the breadth of the door 7 cubits. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits, before the temple. And he said unto me, go away with that pop-up stuff. There you go. Where was I before that popped up? There it is. Verse 4 again. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits, before the temple. And he said unto me, this is the most holy place. After he measured the wall of the house 6 cubits, and the breadth of every side chamber 4 cubits, round about the house on every side. And on the side chambers were 3, one over another, and 30 in order. And they entered into the wall which was of the house for the side chambers round about, that they might have hold. But they had not hold in the wall of the house. And there was an enlarging, and a winding about still upward to the side chambers. For the winding about of the house went still upward round about the house. Therefore the breadth of the house was still upward, and so increased from the lowest chamber to the highest by the midst. I saw also the height of the house round about. The foundations of the side chambers were a full reed of 6 great cubits. The thickness of the wall, which was for the side chamber without, was 5 cubits, and that which was left was the place of the side chambers that were within. And between the chambers was the wideness of 20 cubits round about the house on every side. And the doors of the side chambers were toward the place that was left, one door toward the north, another toward the south, and another door toward the south. And the breadth of the place that was left was 5 cubits round about. Now the building that was before the separate place at the end toward the west was 70 cubits broad, and the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick round about, and the length thereof 90 cubits. So he measured the house 100 cubits long, and the separate place, and the building, with the walls thereof 100 cubits long. Also the breadth of the face of the house, and of the separate place toward the east 100 cubits. And he measured the length of the building over against the separate place which was behind it, and the galleries thereof on the one side and on the other side, 100 cubits, with the inner temple, and the porches of the court, the doorposts, and the narrow windows, and the galleries round about on their 3 stories, over against the door, sealed with wood round about, and from the ground up to the windows, and the windows were covered, to that above the door, even unto the inner house, and without, and by all the wall round about within and without, by measure. And it was made with cherubims and palm trees, so that a palm tree was between a cherub, and every cherub had 2 faces, so that the face of a man was toward the palm tree on the one side, and the face of a young lion toward the palm tree on the other side. It was made through all the house round about, from the ground unto above the door were cherubims and palm trees made, and on the wall of the temple. The posts of the temple were squared, and the face of the sanctuary, the appearance of the one as the appearance of the other. The altar of wood was 3 cubits high, and the length thereof 2 cubits, and the corners thereof, and the length thereof, and the walls thereof were of wood. And he said unto me, this is the table that is before the Lord. And the temple and the sanctuary had 2 doors, and the doors had 2 leaves apiece, 2 turning leaves, 2 leaves for the one door, and 2 leaves for the other door. And there were made on them, on the doors of the temple, cherubims and palm trees, like as were made upon the walls. And there were thick planks upon the face of the porch without. And there were narrow windows, and palm trees on the one side and on the other side, on the sides of the porch, and upon the side chambers of the house, and thick planks. Like I said, there is not much of things that we should and shouldn't be doing in the world. There is not much teaching of Watch out for this, don't do this, do that, follow this example, follow these instructions. There's none of that. This is all descriptive details of the temple. And when it's read straight through like that, yeah, it's pretty confusing. I'll give you that much. So we're talking about these, the inner house, the inner courts. Is that what we're talking about? That's what it was saying. So let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning, and we'll take it slow. Like I said, there might not be much of me stopping to talk about stuff, just to kind of pause, because, like I said, when you read it all straight through, it just kind of gets all jumbled up. So let's start back up at the top and just slowly take it. Some of the interesting things were like the cherubs with the two faces, the one of the lion, the one with the man. When we get there, we'll talk about that. Other than that, it's very descriptive. I know Ezekiel started off strong, and then it just putters out right at the end. Alright. Afterward, he brought me to the temple, and measured the posts 6 cubits broad on the one side, and 6 cubits broad on the other side, which was the breadth of the tabernacle. 6, which was the breadth of the tabernacle. Okay, no, I'm just looking at the diagram. And the breadth of the door was 10 cubits, and the sides of the door were 5 cubits on the one side and 5 cubits on the other side. And he measured the length thereof 40 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits. Then went he inward, and measured the post of the door 2 cubits, and the door 6 cubits, and the breadth of the door 7 cubits. Alright. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits, before the temple. And he said unto me, This is the most holy place. After he measured the wall of the house 6 cubits, and the breadth of every side chamber 4 cubits, round about the house on every side. Again, there's a lot of numbers being thrown around. And someone that is more in tune with numbers than I am has probably already gone through this and said, oh, well, you see, here's this number and here's that number, and you could add these together and they make whatever it is. I'm not that guy. I'm just going to say that right now. So you could probably find somewhere somebody else that has gone through these things. It could probably tell you more than I could. Hey, man, it's out there somewhere. You just got to find it. Well, verse 6, and the side chambers were 3, one over another, and 30 in order. And they entered into the wall, which was of the house for the side chambers round about, that they might have hold. But they had not hold in the wall of the house. And there was an enlarging, and a winding about still upward, to the side chambers. And there was an enlarging and a winding about still. What is the winding about? Let's see if we can find that. Verse 7. And a winding about to turn, to circle. So there was something that circled. A winding about to encompass, surround. Cause to turn. Okay, so there was an enlarging and a winding about still upward to the side chambers. A winding about to the side chambers. I think I see what they're talking about. Where was I at? Still, for the winding about of the house went still upward round about the house, Therefore the breadth of the house was still upward, and so increased from the lowest chamber to the highest by the midst. Verse 8, I saw also the height of the house round about. The foundations of the side chamber were a full reed of 6 great cubits. 6 great cubits. So this is, by a standard cubit, that's only about 8 feet. Am I wrong on that? Or is that 10 feet? You gotta have 6 halves, which would be 3, so it's 9 feet. 9 feet. And this is a great cubit too, so maybe it's a bigger cubit than just a regular cubit. Now, I've already said that a cubit doesn't have to be 18 inches long. The only people that say a cubit is 18 inches long are modern day people. Back then, were there bigger cubits? Because we talked about the tables, that, you know, these things were like 2 feet wide by 2 feet tall or something like that, you know? That's not a very big table for a sacrifice. I don't know. I'm not going to say that anything is one thing or not. Maybe it's something, there's something in the language that I'm missing. Or, then again, maybe a cubit's bigger than what they tell us. Verse 9, the thickness of the wall, which was for the side chamber without, was 5 cubits. That's a thick wall. And that which was left was the place of the side chambers that were within. And between the chambers was the wideness of 20 cubits round about the house. Well, let me read that again so it doesn't sound ridiculous. And between the chambers was the wideness of 20 cubits round about the house on every side. And the doors of the side chambers were toward the place that was left, one door toward the north, and another door toward the south. And the breadth of the place that was left was 5 cubits round about. Now the building that was before the separate place, at the end toward the west, was 70 cubits broad, and the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick round about. So, the wall was 6, 7, is that right? 7 feet thick? Whew. Really though, that's thick. That's a thick wall. Is that right? Because it's 18 inches, so it'd be 1.5 feet. And if it was 5 cubits, that's 5, 6, 7, 7.5. Yeah, 7.5 inches thick. Whew. Or feet thick, sorry. 7.5 feet thick. This place is a vault. Well, it has to hold the Holy of Holies. It has to hold the power of God. So you would think, yeah, it'd be pretty thick, but man, that's a big wall. And the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick round about, and the length thereof 90 cubits. 13. So he measured the house, 100 cubits long, and the separate place, and the building, with the walls thereof, 100 cubits long. Also the breadth of the face of the house, and of the separate place toward the east, 100 cubits. And he measured the length of the building over against the separate place, which was behind it, and the galleries thereof on the one side and on the other side, 100 cubits, with the inner temple and the porches of the court. The doorposts and the narrow windows and the galleries round about on their 3 stories, over against the door, sealed with wood round about, and from the ground up to the windows, and the windows were covered, to that above the door, even unto the inner house and without, and by all the wall round about, within and without, by measure. Now, I have no clue what they're talking about there, because again, not only am I not an architect, but, you know, I am not completely pulling every single piece of understanding out of this possible. Other people, though, could hear that and they could know exactly what they're talking about. This is a 3-story building. We got that out of the... We heard that. So I would imagine that, yeah, maybe the walls would have to be that thick to be able to support 3 stories. Possibly. Alright. So verse 18... And it was made with cherubims and palm trees, so that a palm tree was between a cherub, and every cherub had 2 faces. Now there is something to, again, the symbology, or something to having the palm tree there. I don't know what it is. There's something to having the cherubim there. Now, we've heard very descriptive imagery of what cherubim could be. It could be one of the ones with the 6 wings with the eyes all over them. We've heard other descriptions. I know a seraphim, seraph is the word for snake. I still think that a seraphim was a form of a plumed serpent. That is why God told Satan that you're going to have to crawl on your belly for the rest of your life because you don't have the ability to fly anymore. And there are places that have called the devil a seraphim. There are places that have called the devil a cherub. Now, cherub doesn't exactly fit, but, you know, they're not in the Bible, so, of course, people want to argue, well, if it's not biblical, then it's not real. Okay, well, then fine. But there are stories about Satan being a cherub, or a seraph. So that tracks with what we know with modern mythology of gods. I could go on and on about the plumaged serpent and, you know, dragons and all that other kind of stuff. And but there's these symbolic beings that they made sure, they said one side had cherubs and there was a palm tree in between. So there's something to it. It's worth looking into. And every cherub had 2 faces, so that the face of a man was toward the palm tree on the one side, and the face of a young lion toward the palm tree on the other side. It was made through all the house round about. These cherubs with the 2 faces, one with the lion, one with the man. That's going to be very interesting to see. I would love to be able to see that, to see exactly what this looks like. Verse 20, from the ground unto above the door were cherubims and palm trees made, and on the wall of the temple. So from the ground to above the door were cherubims. So these things were all over the place. The posts of the temple were squared, and the face of the sanctuary, the appearance of the one as the appearance of the other. The altar of wood was 3 cubits high, and the length thereof 2 cubits, and the corners thereof, and the length thereof, and the walls thereof were of wood. And he said unto me, This is the table that is before the Lord. And the temple and the sanctuary had 2 doors, and the doors had 2 leaves apiece, 2 turning leaves, 2 leaves for the one door, and 2 leaves for the other door. I'm going to say that these are the leaves, are the hinges. Which one was this? 24. Door gates of an easily accessible woman. Nice. The valve of a door. Something swinging. So I'm going to say that it was the thing that caused the door to swing. The hinge. 2 leaves for the other door. 25. And there were made on them, on the doors of the temple, cherubims and palm trees. More cherubims and palm trees, like as were made upon the walls. And there were thick planks upon the face of the porch without. And there were narrow windows, and palm trees on the one side and on the other side, on the sides of the porch, and upon the side chambers of the house, and thick planks. Again, it's just descriptive language. There's other places that I can think of where it is describing either a battle or describing a trip through the wilderness, or something that it's talking about a physical thing happening. And there's not a lot of teaching. Like I said, it's all just, this is like this is like that, this is what we saw, this is what it was. And those are the things that a lot of people don't, they don't talk about. Because, really, there's not a lot of spiritual awareness going on here. You can't pull, do good, repent, believe in Christ out of, well, there were cherubims on one side and cherubims on the other side. And it's the places like that where people tend to get very bored with the Bible, because you have to take the long, droney stuff with the really good meat. There is a spiritual aspect to it, I'm sure. It is probably... Has anyone taken this this description and compared it to a human body? Because I am pretty sure you could probably take these descriptions, hell, even to the measurements, maybe, and use them to describe a human body. Could you use them to describe a human heart? Could you use them to describe something, some kind of organ in the body? Christ said our bodies are the temple. Not the literal temple, but, our bodies are our temples. So, is that what this is doing? Could this be describing something that is inside of our bodies that we don't know about? Are there muscle striations? Get this one. Are there muscle striations inside of our body, inside of the human heart, that have the appearance of cherubs and palm trees? This is thinking way outside the box. This whole thing with 3 stories and the stairs winding around and all the little chambers and stuff. Could it be? Could there be something else to it? We could be looking at this and thinking, oh, this is it's just a big building. It's a big building that, it's this amount of, this big and this wide and this whatever. Could we be talking about something else? It's very possible. It's absolutely very possible, because there are the only things that we know about the human body were things that man has told us. The very first because you got to think, every doctor for the past 100, 200 years has only gone off of what they supposedly found 400 years ago. The processes of medicine and medical understanding has not changed that much. Some people might say, well, computers came in and now they have ways of checking this and doing this and okay, I get that, but the absolute drop dead way of going into the human body, taking something out, putting something in, sewing somebody up, that hasn't changed. So what if they have seen these things? And there were people that understood at one point in time, hey, look, there's this description of the temple is very similar to what's going on inside of a human body. Look at these weird patterns over here. They look like these symbols, these little chambers that we don't know about. But we're not going to worry about telling people to go searching for these things. We're going to tell them to go just cut somebody open, heal, sew something up, close them back up, send them on their way. Everything you know was passed down to you by somebody else that may or may not have been telling the truth. I've said this before. Man, I wish I could remember what I was thinking about earlier. I was thinking about it the other day, is that there was something that we do on a daily basis that hasn't changed in, hundreds of years. But it's, God, I wish I remember what it was. But it's like we've just recently found it. Oh, bees. That's what it was. Something that's happened for so many years. We were talking about bees. I was describing it to my granddaughter, actually. We were outside looking at, I'll get rid of this. We were outside looking at flowers. My wife said they're clover flowers. And I don't know if that's true or not, but anyways. We were outside looking at flowers, and I was telling her, because we were both outside, we didn't have shoes on. Because, she loves to be outside without her shoes. Her mom always tells her she has to wear shoes, but whenever she comes out with Papaw, we don't wear shoes, because Papaw takes his shoes off too. Because I want to be grounded. And I've been teaching her, this is how we ground ourselves to the earth, because there's some kind of an energy that passes through our bodies. So anyways, we were out there, and I was telling her, just be careful when you walk through the flowers, because there's bees. And she was like, oh, okay, because she didn't understand. Because I said, look, there's bees all over the place. I said, do you know what they're doing? She said, no. I said, they're going through the flowers, or collecting pollen. They take all the pollen back, and they put it on other flowers so that the other flowers can grow and create more flowers, and then they go back and they make honey. The whole process. I explained it better to her than I am now. And she was like, oh. And I was like, yeah. I said, did you know that bees will travel a mile away from their hive to a very specific patch of flowers just to go right back? She said, no. I said, yeah, that's a long way. I said, they will go directly to a place and go directly back. They don't ever really vary, they don't ever vary away from where they go that much at all. It's called a beeline. Now, this is something that only scientists have really been able to prove over the past, 20 years by putting microchips on the back of bees. They've been able to find that, yes, bees will go from their hive directly to a place that is a mile away and then go directly back to their hive. They never vary, they never pull off of that line. They go back and forth on that line, and they're finding out that it's like that. There's not much fluctuation whatsoever. When they find a spot, that's their spot, and they go directly to it, and they come directly back. It's a beeline. Now, scientists have only found this within the past 10, 20 years. Why has the term been there for 60, 70, 100 years? How did the people who invented the word beeline, how did they know that the bees will go directly from point A to point B and go right back? That's some understanding that we don't have. Somewhere along the line, these guys, whether they tagged the bees, they marked the bees, and they were able to find the bees a mile away, 2 miles away, whatever it is, and then they were able to say, oh, well, these bees came directly here and they went directly back. Maybe, I don't know. But that term, beeline, has been in my vocabulary for a while. A beeline means to go directly to a place. Let's beeline straight to the store. Let's not deviate. Why is it that the people that made up that word knew what bees do, and we're only just now finding out what bees do? That's your food for thought for the day. That's an interesting interesting little thing that popped into my head. And just one of those, it's just one of those details of life, you know. You're just like, man, what is this world? What's going on here? Why is it like this? Anyways, that's what I was telling her. That's what I was trying to remember. But that's part of the opening up your mind to the experience that we have been lied to. It's like the cardinal directions thing. It's like the cubit thing. How do we know a cubit is 18 inches? How do we know that north has always been what we call north? How do you know that the number in front of the year that's on a map really is the number 1? I've talked about this one before too. It could very well be an I. The year of our Lord Christ, 400 whatever, 600 whatever year that map was made. I've seen it where it would say something like, you know, the map was created in like 1681. Why is it that the one on the back end does not look like the one on the front end? You know, something like that. Why are there 2 different variations of the number 1? It's worth questioning. Every single bit of the history that you understand, that little cough there. I need to take a drink is what I need to do. I'm going to take a drink. Every single bit of history that you understand is only 200, 250 years old. Every piece of music, philosophy, mathematics, geography, everything. Almost every, I would say 95% of everything that you know was something that somebody came up with back in the 1800s. 1700s, 1800s. About 200 years. It was like there was nothing before that. Sure, we had supposedly great philosophers back in the day. Supposedly we had, great thinkers that were able to make these amazing things back in, 2nd, 3rd century. But the bulk of everything you know is only about 200 years old. And you're only told about the past 200 years. Everything else before that is the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages of the world that spread from like the 5th or 6th century all the way up until the 1500s. There's just a 1,000-year period where just nothing happened. Everything stagnated. The entire world stagnated for 1,000 years. Not one damn thing of maybe a big battle somewhere. Maybe somebody gave some land over to somebody else. But nothing else. Don't worry about it. Doesn't mean anything. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the 1,000 years of history that you've missed out on. Only worry about the stuff that came before that. Or after. Or definitely after. Just trying to crack your brain open. Just trying to get you to understand that a cubit does not have to be 18 inches. North, south, east, and west do not have to be the directions that they are called. And the description of the temple in the Bible does not have to talk about a physical building of stone. This could very well be talking about the human body, the human anatomy, and that the doctors that came up with the medical profession as we know it, maybe they know, maybe someone along the line, the people that wrote those books have seen this and they just don't want to share. Who knows? Who knows? All right. That's enough for today. I will talk to you all on Monday. I wish you all well. I love you. Love you all. God bless everyone. You take care of yourselves and think about it. Just think about it for a second. Go back through everything I just read. Like I said, maybe we are actually talking about the human body. Thickness of the walls and the side chambers, and maybe there is something to this. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Take care of yourselves.